My shirt is better than yours.
All right. Kelly just disappeared. I think something just happened. All right, we are live. This is not Memorex. Okay, Robert. You're back, Kelly. Great.
Got kicked out.
Well, let's go ahead and get started because I know that it's late in the evening and it's been a long day for many of us. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Robert Johnson. I'm an attorney at Greenspoon Martyr and also the executive co-chair along with Carb Wright for GROmentum Labs. And we are excited to put on this presentation this evening to really talk about some amazing developments that have recently taken place in the cannabis industry. And we hope that we can provide the education and the information that folks need at this critical hour because there's a lot of decisions that have to be made in a relatively short period of time. So the purpose of this meeting is really to do two things. One, educate the folks who are in this space about what the recent developments have been and what they need to do as a result of them. And then to talk a little bit about GROmentum Labs as well. GROmentum Labs is a social equity cannabis accelerator that is really standing at the nexus between what is happening here in Illinois and what needs to happen from our perspective in terms of making the cannabis industry more inclusive and really live up to not only the spirit, not only the letter, but the spirit of the law that has been enacted so that wealth can be created for people of color and create a more inclusive industry. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is turn it over to and introduce Amy Nathan, who is the executive director for GROmentum Labs, and she can walk you through the rest of the agenda.
Well, as I do that, thank you so much, Robert. Really appreciate everybody who came out late tonight. It is kind of late to be starting a heavy discussion, but I also wanted to introduce my co-executive director, Kelly Evans. She's also on with me, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing the position with her. She's newer to GROmentum, but not newer to the topic or to the industry. And we're really excited to have her along for this amazing ride with us. Hi there, Doug. Good to see you and the Greenspoon and Martyr team. In fact, I wanted to thank you guys for sponsoring tonight. I know that you guys will have something to say, but I didn't want to leave that off the agenda. Robert has been gracious enough to have connected us, and we're just happy to kind of get into the weeds a little bit, all puns intended. So let's just jump right in. The agenda for tonight is that we sent out an email a couple days ago. I know that there wasn't much time, but of course, we want everyone to be able to do what they need to do by Tuesday, the 25th. So we shortened the timeline to sign up. And for those of you who know people who would benefit or wanted to be here but couldn't be here, this session is being recorded. And so if you get in touch, we will be able to accommodate and provide you this information. We're going to talk about what was covered briefly because that stuff has been published and we published it as well. We're going to focus more on the so what of it, meaning what do you need to do? And whoever you are is very different. Like some people found out that they won. Some people didn't really find out anything. And some people think that there is an opportunity in the next couple days, next couple weeks, as these lotteries and dispensary side take place, that they have something to gain. So we're going to kind of break that all down today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our accelerator program, what it means, what you might get out of it. And then we're also going to talk about the legal ramifications of all of this. You've probably already heard, there were already a whole spate of lawsuits that took place that were filed last year. And then now with the grows coming out and the dispensary coming out, we've just heard about some other suits. So to just get an idea of what's happening, it's an opportunity for you to ask questions as well. If you have questions, I would just ask, because the volume has been disabled. So if you could just type them in the chat, that would be the best. And we're gonna get going here. I don't think I've seen Kara join. If Kara, are you out there? If so, maybe you could just tell us in the chat or show us on the screen, because you would have gotten a different link. All right, well, we're gonna just jump right into it. So this you probably have seen before. I published it 2 weeks ago, or 2 days ago. 1443 does a lot more than just these, 5 bullets that are there on the left. But these are the ones the most pertinent to you as an applicant immediately. So the first one is all about what it did for those who applied to craft grow, transporter, and infuser licenses. And it looks like, yeah. And for those guys who did apply and actually got word individually, then you've been told that you have 10 days to get paperwork in and to pay for your license. And if that's your situation, congratulations, because you worked really hard. A lot of people worked really hard, and it's a really huge compliment and a really huge testament to what you were able to pull off. So that's sort of one group. The next group is for those people who didn't hear anything, who applied to those very same licenses. Sometimes it's sort of what you don't hear that you have to make inferences about. And we're here to talk about that as well, because there's something very significant to you as well. For those of you who've been in the running for dispensary licensing, there is definitely a lot, and we knew about a lot of this because it had come out in the press in the previous weeks. And so, but was finally discussed was when the lotteries were going to be happening and what exactly it meant for the lotteries to happen. And then the last group is, again, the dispensary group around zoning. It's essentially around zoning for them. So that's basically what happened. There were other things that happened regarding the medical licenses and other topics, but we're not going to get into any of that right now. So what does it mean? So the people who were informed that they got their license, basically, like I said, you've got 10 days, and at this point you have until it says June 25th. It should say July 25th. My apologies. I thought I had updated that. I think I had written it twice, and it is July 25th. That would be Tuesday. The good news, if you're a social equity applicant, is that you're required to pay half of the fee. So the fee is $20,000. If you have a craft grow, $5,000. If you have a infuser, and the good news is that would be cut in half. If you need the actual citation, I have it, and I'd be able to provide that to you so that when you go to bring your cashier's check or send in your cashier's check, you're able to cite why you should get a 50% a decrease or yeah, for that. For you guys, if you're scrambling to find this money, because of course, who knew that this announcement was going to come out? And you could very well be in a position where you just didn't have that cash on hand. And if that's the situation, I'm sure there will be a lot of predators looking around trying to make deals right now. And one of the things we want to talk to you about, maybe when we get into the next session, is how we at GROmentum might be able to help you with that to some degree. It would require that you delay the actual request for the license, but you'd have to fill out some paperwork to do that now so that the state will know that you intend to get your license. You just need it delayed. There are others who are doing this for lots of different reasons, for property reasons, for, all sorts of reasons right now. So it's not out of the question that that would be a response you'd have. The next group is for people who didn't get their award. They didn't find anything out, but what we did learn was that the state intends to award another 60 both infuser and craft grow licenses this year. It's supposed to be by December of this year. And they didn't give any specifics around it. No new criteria, nothing. And there's a silver lining here, which is that you basically have a much higher odd of getting it at this point, because of course 40 people or 32 teams have been taken out of the running essentially. And so now there's a smaller group and there are 60 on both of the applicant types. So we're really looking, we look at this as a much better situation for you guys if that's what happened. We would recommend though that if you don't know what your scores are, that you fill out a Freedom of Information Act request and that you actually get your scores, because that will really tell you if you're in the running. Or you're not.
Amy, this is David Sand. I'm just going to cut you off there just because all of our clients received their FOIA responses today. The Department of Agriculture is not responding to FOIA requests. They're refusing to respond at this time. They've indicated that the scoring is not yet complete. So well, you can certainly fill out those FOIA requests and send them in, but just to let everyone know, the Department of Agriculture is not going to be responding to those until either at a minimum the 40 licenses are issued, but it sounds more like not until all 100 are issued.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
But yeah.
I would say though that it doesn't hurt to fill it out, right? Because
no, it doesn't hurt to ask, but I'm just saying that they're not currently responding to this.
It's
so it doesn't hurt to ask.
It's a great expectation setter. So thank you, David. But if it were me, I would want to fill it out in case they got to it, right? But that's really good to point out. Okay, so that's the situation on that was, to me, that was the biggest shock of what came out last week, was that they actually issued these. Like I didn't know that anybody necessarily thought that was going to be what was included, but it was. Dave and Ryan or David, were you guys surprised by that? I'm just curious.
Super surprised. I think that, like you said, that changes the equation for a lot of groups to go from 40 licenses to 100 licenses here in, what is a difference of 5 months. So we were very surprised. We weren't expecting it. I think it was done in large part to kind of deflect some of the concerns that a lot of people have about this process. And to an extent, I think that worked. But I was certainly really surprised to hear today when we got our FOIA request back that they're saying this scoring process is not complete. That's counter to the fact that they've obviously scored 40 applicants enough that they have those scores. So I think that's one of the things that'll start percolating out. It just came back late this afternoon today.
Oh, wow.
Right. And if they haven't scored everybody, how did they know that those are the top 40 scoring applicants? I mean, it really doesn't make sense. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Bad actor.
So I just want to say that they haven't indicated that they haven't scored these yet. They're just saying we're not going to release scores until licenses are released.
They said
Under
scoring is
FOIA.
not, they said the scoring
So
process
it's
is
not that they
complete,
don't have the scores.
but they literally said the scoring process is not complete.
Right, Doug, but they're saying that because for anyone other than the 40 that were issued the fourth round of deficiencies and responded to them, that whoever's going to get like the additional 60 are going to get that fourth round of deficiencies. So they're hiding behind the fact that even though those aren't scored exhibits, they're hiding behind the fact that that application process isn't done. So they're using I think it's section 7 of FOIA and saying this is an ongoing process and therefore we're exempt from FOIA, so we don't have to respond to these. But yeah,
right, despite requesting your current score or your score before that fourth round of deficiency, which we did specifically.
So they're saying the final selection of all available licensees has not yet occurred. And their position is until the final selection of all available licensees has occurred, it's not final. And so they're not going to release scores because they're not final. So
Right,
they're really being, hyper technical.
right.
Or otherwise known as opaque. Okay. The opposite of transparent. All right. Let's see. All right, so thank you for the discussion. I think it's really good for people to sort of hear the logic that's behind it, because I think that it's easy to just jump to conclusions and not just hear some of the background on it. All right, so then I think most people knew that what HB 1443 was about. Hey there, Kara.
Hi there.
Although it says that you're at Robert Johnson.
I
called
sent
on
you a
the-
link.
Yeah.
That's
Much,
funny.
much prettier version than me.
Welcome, Kara. I want to introduce everybody to Kara Wright. Kara is, along with Robert, the co-executive chair of GROmentum Lab. I'm very happy to see you here and joining us. We've just been having an enlightening conversation about the craft grow infuser and transportation realm and FOIA and what the state is answering, what they're not answering. And it's a little convoluted. But what we were just about to transition to is the dispensary conversation, in that HB 1443 introduced something that people have been talking about for a long time in terms of an expansion of licenses and different lotteries. So I'll hand it over to you, Kara, because I know you know a lot more about this and the genesis of it and the outcome of it than I do.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I can definitely give a high level of what's happening and share a little bit about what each of the lotteries are going to include and what they mean for those who are waiting to learn the outcomes. So most of you know that last week, I believe it was the 15th, that Governor Pritzker, the signature enacts HB 1433. He announced that he gave the dates that the lotteries were going to happen. And so there are going to be 3 different lotteries. The first is going to be July 29th. The second is going to be August 5th. And the third is going to be August 19th. The first is going to be July 29th, and that is going to be specifically the qualifying applicant lottery. That's going to be for 55 adult use licenses for applicants to the January 2020 process who scored at least 85%. So I think that's 213 out of the 250 applicant points. And the next, the August 5th lottery, again, another 55 adult use licenses from the same applicant pool. That's called the Social Equity Justice Involved Lottery. Again, those who scored at least 85%, same amount of points, 213 out of 250. But it does not include applicants who obtained their social equity or social justice status by employing 10 people who were from DIAs or disproportionately impacted areas, or had been arrested because of cannabis-related crimes. And so that is what distinguishes that lottery from the qualifying applicant lottery. And then finally, the third lottery, which is August 19th.
Is it? I'm sorry, I think I have August 22nd there, so I'll go back and check that out again.
It's August 19th.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You would definitely know better than I would on this one.
I would definitely know. Because this is actually the lottery that really, really impacts our team. And this is called the Tide Applicant Lottery, which was the original lottery for the 21 applicants who were originally announced to Tide with the highest scoring points for a drawing of the original 75 dispensary adult use licenses. And I don't know how deeply you want me to go into the process and what the lottery looks like and how that process works, but we can stop here and take any questions, at least at this point.
Yeah, and the only thing I wanted to add to that is, I do want to ask a question. You missed this before you joined. I was wondering, David or Ryan, do you know if IDFPR is answering FOIAs? Because for this one, this is happening so quickly that if you haven't requested your points or if you haven't gotten your points yet, you almost can't get that turned around at this point because it's so soon from now. But do you know if IDFPR is answering this? Because David had said that they weren't answering an IDOA.
So the points are, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have not submitted one that I'm aware of and gotten a response. So I just can't answer that. I don't know if anyone else on our team has, but I haven't.
So Amy, are you really asking if people are going to have access to their points? Is that what I'm hearing in that question?
Yeah.
So my understanding, actually, let me look at, I did actually ask that question. We did a lot of work on this legislation on HB 1433. This was largely a group of us who worked on this. So I reached out to, let me just see, I actually have a date now. I don't know if this is, I didn't get this from the governor's office. I didn't get this from, I think it's July 27th. Hold on, let's see. The date I have is July 27th. The scores are going to come out.
For everybody, or just for the Tide applicants, or?
I think for all the dispensary applicants. That is my understanding. I don't know if that is for all of craft grow, infuser, transportation. I'm not sure.
No, I think it's just dispensary because we were just talking about that until the other 60 are released.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And they definitely did indicate that they were going to publish lists of everybody. So maybe that's consistent with what you're hearing, Kara.
Well, the lists that I understood that they were publishing, Ryan, were the lists of those who accepted the option to get their craft grow infuser and transportation on the 25th, that they were going to publish those.
Oh, I thought they were going to publish a list of all the groups that were eligible for each individual lottery before the lottery. That's what I thought I read, but again, there's a lot of information. So I asked that question if you know about that.
So, Kara, I do have a question. This question has come to me from other people, not on this call, but they may be on this call, but it was earlier in the week. Do you know if the people who had applied to who got into the Tide or will be part of the qualified and part of the social equity justice lotteries, or would they not be?
Yes. So my understanding is that those folks will be, but if they should win, if they should be, if any of their applications are drawn in those rounds, they are, and depending on how many applications they have in those rounds, they can only carry over a limited number into the additional rounds. So I can't remember what the number is. I know it's, I think it's, I think there's only, I don't have the specifics. I think it's been changing.
Hey, Kara, this is David Sanders. So the statute reads that they can win up to 2, just like anyone else. Well, not them. A principal officer can win up to 2 in each of the first 2 lotteries. And then in total, a principal officer can be on 10. So
Okay.
for the 20, well, it's going to be more than 21 applicants, because presumably there'll be other vet teams that get to perfect scores that will be in the tied applicant lottery. But who's ever in that tied applicant lottery can win up to 10.
Okay.
And they can win 2 in each of the preceding 2 lotteries. And because of the timing and the way they're doing it, yes, they will be in all 3 lotteries because they're doing theirs last.
And so,
Yeah.
David, what you just said is that people who were very, very close to having perfect scores before may have cured some of their deficiencies and become perfect scores. And so 21 is no longer 21.
Well, right. But they will need a vet, because we all know now that to get to perfect, you needed a vet. But
Right.
yes, I mean, and I don't know for sure, but in theory, if you had a vet if you were a vet owned company and you participated in the deficiency round process, you have a chance to get to 252 and be part of the tied applicant lottery.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Also, I think you can keep 2 of them, and you also have 5 days to put any extra winners back into the hopper for the next lottery.
Oh,
So
right.
you can decide. You have 5 days to give any extra back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. And the tricky part there is if you have a team where there's more principal officer on more than one team, and then that team has to decide what the principal officer wants to do.
Which is the second bullet on my next steps area, which is the idea of shoring up the principal owners to ensure that you've got, of all the principal owners on your application, they are not showing on over 10. Because if they should win all of those, then the fact that you win could get disqualified if they don't choose to not be on yours anymore. So it's good to know, if the people on your application, how many other applications they are on, and to talk with them about which ones they might want to give up so that you can move forward with your claim of licensing. Okay, I am not seeing, I'm monitoring what's going on with the Q&A, and so far I'm not seeing any questions. Either we've thoroughly discussed it or we've thoroughly confused everyone.
Amy, I had one quick question for Kara. You mentioned that the social equity involved lottery excludes those who hired the 10 employees, either from DIAs or who had arrests or convictions. One thing we were confused about is some of the language the IDFPR put out suggests they might be making a differentiating between people who were arrested for marijuana related offenses and those convicted. Are you aware of that? So you could obviously get social equity status by being an owner who has an arrest or conviction. Does an owner who had just an arrest still qualify for the social equity involved lottery, from your understanding?
From my understanding, an arrest does not qualify for that second round.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that is just my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's helpful to know, and I think that was what the IDFPR seemed to be suggesting, and we didn't know if that was by design or just kind of, poor use of language, but that's helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the only other thing that we wanted to bring up at this point was that they did remove the requirement of a dispensary locating near an already existing one. There was a 1,500 linear feet rule that's now been removed for social equity entrepreneurs to locate nearer to one. That actually opens up a lot more possibilities for people to compete in kind of hot areas, if you will. So the outcome there is that you'll want to sort of reconsider some of the places that you wanted to put your footprint if you should get so lucky as to get one of these licenses. We do have a link. I sent it out on our email a couple days ago, but also on our website is the current zoning process in the city of Chicago, and what are all the touch points where it could go wrong for you if you're trying to get a license based on how it's worked for others to get zoned properly. So if you do go, if you can't figure out where on our website that is, go to look at this. The link is here in this email, but if you can't, just reach out to me and I'll get you to the right place. That zoning process is what's currently in place. It may change, but we will keep our site refreshed with the latest and greatest on that. Okay.
Amy, I'll just say one thing about that process. That's really important because I think for those who haven't gone through it, that is going to be, particularly with all of the licensing coming, or all of the licenses coming out at the same time, that is going to be a really big challenge. And so for those who do get licenses, I would say that, you should probably have things in place as soon as you can to start that process if you have not already, because it is going to be a taxing process and very involved. And what can happen is a bottleneck of that can be a very bottlenecked process with so many people trying to get that through, and that can really stall your progress, and it's going to be really important to get to market. So it's a lot of licenses, and zoning is going to be really important, and getting that process to happen is just going to take a lot of diligence, and with all of us trying to vie for that, I just say just be very aggressive on making that happen.
So, and how to do that,
Just to add
you
to
could
that.
you could actually reference, if you go to our website, we did an entire session last summer on the zoning process in Chicago and elsewhere. And it lays out the whole process and who you need to talk to and at what point. And I would just look at that just so that you get it in your mind what the steps are. And it's always a good idea, if you have an idea of where you want to be, that you're already in touch with the alderman there. You know, depending on your situation, it's, maybe difficult for you to be hiring legal counsel at this point. So at least be knowing what the steps are and being in touch with your local contacts to help you through that process is gonna be the first most important thing right away.
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Amy. And I was going to reference exactly what you just said in terms of that outline to give folks at least a starting point. But the real larger point that I want to make is piggybacking on what Cara said in terms of, this process has been, painstakingly slow, and now all of a sudden it's going at lightning speed. And that's just par for the course for the state, that, it's a hurry up and wait, and then it's everything out the gate. So it's going to be critical that folks really get their ducks in a row and really turn up the volume in terms of getting their head around all of these various steps. So it's a perfect segue into sort of the next 2 points around what resources are available to help you do that.
There are resources. Thanks, Robert. Yep. So the first resource, which is, it was clarified in this announcement that went out because everyone knew that there was a loan program. There was a while that they were saying it was a no-cost loan program. Then it became a low-cost loan program. I keep saying the word problem. I don't mean
It's a
to.
problem. You got it right. It's a problem.
It is a problem. I don't mean to be saying that, but I am. Cara, I always make these faux pas that Cara laughs at, and we have this thing. Okay. But there is a program, and what we learned in the last communication was all of this information. It was very convoluted, but I just took out the key points. And whether it's no cost, low cost, or high cost, it's going to be a case-by-case basis is what we really learned about it. And it would definitely be worthwhile to apply, because even if, of course, if it's a predatory loan, you don't want it. But cost of capital is always a really big factor in making these financial decisions. And your cost for capital, especially with a government-backed program, is going to be a lower cost than equity would be. And if you can get a good chunk of your startup costs funded because of this program, it will really reduce the amount you need to rely on investors, and then the autonomy that you have to make decisions on your own as a team. And I think that's just the long and the short of it. After that, yeah, there are other details, but I would say that you should really look at this. If you go to the email that I sent out that introduced all this, there is a link to this program, and I would start filling that out. And the thing that the little key thing that they pointed out just now, but we really all didn't know about this. We all thought that maybe you could pay for your license with this loan, and it's absolutely not true. And that's because to get this loan, you have to already be licensed. And that order in which these things happen has a big impact, because if you don't have $20,000 laying around right now for your craft grower license, then you can't pay for it with this loan. It's not a possibility, which is why we default back to ask for a delay and explain why, that you're looking, you're trying to get your financing together for the permit. And then there are some things that we can help you with in GROmentum and some other ideas that we might have for you as well. But you just don't want anybody to think that you can get this loan as a way to pay off the licensing fee, even if it is halved. If it's discounted, it's still due within 10 days. And that will also be true for the dispensary rounds when the dispensary rounds come up. So this problem of licensing and having the cash available, the good news is if you're a dispensary owner, then you got this heads up warning a couple of weeks in advance. The people with craft grow and transportation got it the day it was issued. And so that timeline, that crunch is pretty significant, I think. All right. So moving right along. So we talked a little bit about GROmentum Lab. I think most of the people on this call know who we are because we've been helping folks with these applications. But what you may not know is what we've built in terms of our program and how we want to serve you and work with you going forward. Our program has a myriad of ways to connect. There's virtual learning. There will be some in-person learning. The idea is that it gives you the experience that you need. And instead of you thinking of it as you going off to take classes when you should be working on launching your business, instead think of it as you just got added to your team a whole bunch of consultants who are focused on getting you launched. And that's really what we're all about. If you should get one of these licenses, we have a mentoring program where your mentor will be with you for a year, not just for a couple months. We have coaches ready to help you complete the deliverables, and these deliverables that you will be assigned are going to be things you need to show the bank, to show different partners that you work with, that you're for real, that you're really getting the stuff done. So we're here to support every step of the way. We've got 3 tracks of learning. One is really about the industry, all the different parts of the industry, how they fit together, the compliance aspect of it. Let me say that again, the compliance aspect of it, because if you've not been in a highly regulated industry, you've not experienced what's going to happen. You will have the government in your shorts forever. And that relationship is a special one. And how to make that work for you so that you can have a sustainable business that you can continue to compete is basically the name of the game. If you thought getting the application in was the hardest part of it, that was just day one of every day is the hardest part of it. And that's what operators tell me. We are going to be joined in all of our tracks by people who are really in this. We have people who have owned businesses, people who started businesses. Most of the businesses are actually operating businesses, meaning, cannabis businesses, plant touching businesses, but a lot of them are the types of people who are your partners. People like the lawyers, like the accountants, like the security companies, architects, all the people who are actually doing this work for those that exist in Illinois, outside of Illinois, they will be joining us to help pull this off. There are 3 tracks. One is industry technical training, which is what I just described. There's an MBA Light, which is designed to help make sure that you've had experience in every aspect, every function of a business, that you can really run a complex business that has to grow quickly. And then professional development, which is really the soft stuff, which is always the hardest stuff in business. How do you work out stuff with your team? How do you grow your team really quickly? How do you raise money? How do you read a contract when, yeah, you've got a lawyer, but you really need to read your own contracts too and feel comfortable with it. And so we're going to be working with you on getting you to the point where by the time you're done, you're pitching, you're raising money, we're helping put you in front of investors, we're matching you to investors, and you're confident about that skill set. So that's what we're here to do. Our goal in our program is that you get seed funded of $50,000, and that money can be used for your licensing. And so that's our answer. If you should come into our program, we've got sort of a way that we want to get that funding distributed, but it would certainly include that if funding your license fee is what you want it for, certainly that can happen. All right. So I don't see any questions on this topic out there, like Robert or Cara or Kelly, or did anybody want to like include anything that I may have missed on the program? All right. So then I'm going to ask Ryan, and if David's still around, to talk, and Irina, I know Irina's had some troubles with her connectivity here, but
I'm here. Sorry about that.
no problem, no problem. I just have this slide on how to request government information from the government, meaning, you know, I know that we talked about FOIA and the troubles with it before. But did you guys want to talk about any of the legal aspects of what's going on, what we can be expecting from some of the delays? What is the reason behind the delays? I know we started a conversation sort of before the group got together.
I can speak to the lawsuit that was recently filed. Is that what you're getting at, Amy, that we were talking about?
That would be for the Department of Agriculture, but you know, for any of these things. Yeah.
No, the lawsuit's actually with IDFPR. It's against the IDFPR. And it's over the dispensary lotteries that are coming up here. It's in federal court. And one thing they've asked is to enjoin the lotteries from going forward. So I want everybody to be aware that there is a chance that the federal court may grant a TRO and that the lotteries won't proceed when they're supposed to. Most specifically, though, that I think that the lawsuit's homing in on the issue of the fact that the second lottery is excluding from it those who achieve social equity through hiring employees. That was a change that was made in House Bill 1443, and the argument is, hey, you've switched the definition of something mid-process, and it's really unfair to us. You know, when we applied, we were told it was all the same. The points were binary. We asked FAQs. Everybody said, if you achieve social equity, you're all being treated the same. And now we're being treated differently. And so they want in Lotto 2. And if they're successful, then Lotto 2 and Lotto 1 become the same thing, right? You scored 85% or better and you're in. So I think that I don't want to speculate, but I do think that the argument has merit. It's something that raised flags for almost everyone I talked to when they heard about the change from a legal perspective. So I thought it was a pretty smart move of them to try to get into federal court, just because there's been sort of a slew of losses in state courts when it comes to cannabis licensing litigation and trying to get the department to do something else. Courts have been sort of reluctant and have let both AG and IDFPR proceed with their process. So that's the background of that lawsuit.
So are you saying then, Irina, that that it does have merit, or you're saying that it doesn't have merit?
I think the point has merit. Whether it's enough to get them to get a TRO from a federal court and enjoin the lotteries from going forward, I don't know. That's a high burden. it's a difficult thing to achieve. And I don't know if the court's even going to be willing to enjoin Lotto 1 when really the issue is about Lotto 2. So it might get carved out differently. They have a different argument that is a US constitutional argument dealing with the 5 residency points. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense for us to drill down on that legal issue. They're saying the 5 residency points violate the US Constitution's Dormant Commerce Clause and Equal Protection Clause. That's an argument that's also been made in Missouri, Michigan, and Maine, some of which has been successful, but very different residency requirement issues. You know, Illinois' 5 points are very different from the residency requirements of the places I just mentioned. So it's not, you know, they're relying on that case law. It's not apples to apples. My thinking is they use that as a hook to get into federal court. But what they're really getting into in this lawsuit and what they really care about is being excluded from that second lotto.
Okay. And so the outcome would be that they would just delay that second lotto, or that they would not do any of the lotteries, or like what?
It just depends on what the federal judge, if anything, wants to grant. What I'm trying to say is they've asked for a TRO of all lottos. That's what they've asked for. They've asked the court to enjoin the lotteries from going forward.
So I guess we'll know in like the next 10 days.
Yeah, we'll know very quickly. You know, my reaction is that the argument legally does have some merit. I think the problem they'll run into is this was done by the legislature for the licenses that were supposed to be given out later, not a change to the original 75, but to the 110 that were supposed to come out at a different time. And I think they'll be able to successfully argue that they didn't change the rules of the game for the first 75. And they retroactively changed them through legislation, the normal process, not through regulation or anything. And thus they can move forward with their plan with respect to the 110. But there's no doubt you may get a sympathetic federal judge. We've seen crazier things. So I think it's good to have a heads up that there is this litigation. So far, I have not seen, and I don't know if anybody else has, anything filed on the craft grow side. And that'll be interesting. I think, you know, we talked about it briefly with the carrot that was kind of put out there with the additional 60 licenses. I think from my conversations with various folks who were concerned about the original 40 not going in a way that was favorable to them or that they thought fair, have sort of dialed back and said, okay, well, this additional 60 maybe changes the equation a little. So I think from a PR litigation perspective, the Department of Ag did do a smart thing with those 60 licenses. And so far, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see litigation on that, but so far I haven't seen it.
Interesting. Anything is possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. And I think you may see something about this. I mean, again, we're just getting this FOIA information, but I think you will see if the department is not planning to give out scores to anybody in the near future. I think you will see some more people upset and thinking about trying to compel at least getting a score so that they know where they stand in terms of these next 60. And I think that's where we will see some things happening.
Right. And given that there's so many rounds of deficiency, you know, like a lot of people are scratching their head, like that I know, are saying, well, wait a minute, I didn't get a 4th round. Does that mean I'm out? Or does that mean I didn't have anything wrong? You know, and they're trying to figure out what it means, but really without that FOIA, without their score, they don't know.
Yeah, we're making inferences. My inference on that is that if you didn't get a 4th round, you were not going to be one of the 40. But that does not mean you will not get, if you do get one for this upcoming 60, which I suspect a lot of people will,
right,
that may actually be a good sign for you going forward.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah. But that group doesn't have this 85% rule attached to it. Is that correct? So to just be the top 60 at that point.
Yeah, and I think we're all making the inference that it's going to be the next top 60 scores, but there's really nothing that says that. You know, it could be that they say It does seem a lot discretion. They could say, look, the top 85% are going to go into a lottery for this next 60. It could be something like that. I'm expecting it to be, hey, we're going to go down the list and give you the next highest 60 scores who meet the various qualifications. But there is nothing in that proposal or the information they provided that says that, or gives really any indication on what they're doing, how they're scoring or awarding the next 60.
Awesome.
So,
All right. Well, this is great. Thank you guys for the information. Was somebody saying something? I could barely hear you if so. All right, well, we are at 9:20. We weren't exactly sure how many questions there would be. Well, I'll just keep the line open for a little bit. I don't have any other questions in queue. I brought them up, but I just didn't call out who asked. So thank you guys from Greenspoon Martyr. Thanks to the GROmentum team that's here. Really appreciate your participation in this. As I said earlier, it's being recorded, so people will probably want to reference this and look at it after the fact. And we will continue to keep in touch. Let's get growing.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Great info. Thanks, everybody. Kara, love the hair.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
You too.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Kara.